1277 apparently was the earliest sightings of the St. George's Cross being flown on an English ship. That's a long time that this beautiful flag has been associated with the great nation of England. And that flag celebrated a man that was born 1,000 years earlier in 270 AD. His name was Georgi. He was born in Cappadocia, which today would be called Turkey. There was a lot of religious wars in those days, and St. George refused to give up his Christian faith and was willing to be executed. And so people wanted to celebrate him. In fact, St. George became the patron saint not just of England, but of many nations around the world. Now, today you might see around your town or around the country many St. George's crosses, and some of them have been put up under a campaign called Raise the Colours. And for some people in Britain, that is a problem. It's made people a little bit nervous. Because you see, when I was a child in the 1970s, there was a group called the National Front, and they were quite angry, particularly at people like me, people who are brown or black. And they used to chant some pretty horrible racist things and wave the flag. And so the St. George's Cross for a long time was a symbol of fear. People were worried about it. But in the 1990s, thanks to the England football team doing brilliantly in the European Football Championships, it got revived again as a positive symbol of what it means to be great at sport and proud of the nation of England. In fact, I was waving a St. George's Cross recently when the Lionesses came back on their victory bus along the Mall in central London. And it's a time to celebrate, isn't it? It's great. We get to say how great our country is and how fantastic our football teams and other sporting teams are. But this recent campaign isn't celebrating a football match or any kind of special sporting event. It isn't St. George's Day, which is a day when people normally raise a flag, maybe outside a church or have special St. George's Day parades. No, this campaign comes at the same time that there's been a lot of protests outside asylum hotels. Now, asylum hotels are hotels that have been used to house asylum seekers, people fleeing war and terror. And because they're not allowed to work, because of the government's rules on that, they have to live somewhere that the government provides. And so these hotels have been used. And there have been a lot of angry protests outside some of these hotels. In fact, some people have been arrested for breaking into the hotels or attacking police officers. Not everybody that's protested has been angry, but there has been quite a lot of violence and quite a few arrests. And so because people were protesting wearing the white and red of St. George's Cross or waving that flag, people are associating this as a way of saying that they are in solidarity or they're supporting the anti-immigration campaign. But a lot of people have begun to feel a little bit nervous about this. The best way I can think about it is this. Look, this is a brick. And bricks are brilliant. We love bricks. Without bricks, there wouldn't be any houses. There probably wouldn't be a school for you to go and study in. They're a good thing. But if I'm walking down the street carrying a brick like this, and I don't look like I work on a building site, people might assume I'm going to try and hurt someone with the brick or smash something with the brick. You can see how something like a brick can be used for good purposes or for bad purposes. It can symbolize something positive or something negative. Well, it's been the same with the St. George's Cross. For some people, we're celebrating the greatness of being English and the wonderful things about our culture and our sport. And for other people, they're using it as a threat, particularly to people who are immigrants. Now, in our schools, we want to make sure that everybody feels welcome. Wherever you're from, whatever you look like, whatever the color of your skin, you are welcome in our schools. And so we've got to find a way, particularly for those people who are feeling a bit nervous about the flags, to help them know that they're welcome here and that we're here to support and be kind to one another. Now that we know about the proud history of the St. George's Cross flag and how it can be used for good to celebrate or for bad to intimidate, I'd like to encourage you to discuss two questions. Firstly, what does the flag mean to you? And secondly, how can we work together to make sure everyone around us feels welcome?